The USMNT Top 10 is back, ladies and gentlemen. Well, mostly gents. And the first weekend, opening weekend, did not disappoint. After a disappointing summer, it is good not only to get, obviously the Pochettino news, but also to have our guys playing regularly again and performing at high levels, which they did. We were rewarded this weekend with a lot of strong performances, a lot of good performances. And goddamn, it's good to be back. Little update on me. I have been, not as busy or not as active as I usually am, both on Twitter and on YouTube. I've been dealing with some medical issues that I am still kind of in the middle of. But that's why I haven't been as active here, but I hope to be fully recovered soon. And this is a great way to kickstart a new season with a strong opening weekend. Not from everybody, but we're at that place now where it's like, if 10 guys in Europe have a bad weekend, we still have enough for a top 10, right? We still have a lot of guys who played well enough to make the top 10 worth doing. So, it's exciting. And I think it's going to be even better. Last season was record-breaking. And not just record-breaking, but record-destroying. Anybody who hasn't seen my video that I did, I think in May, about the season that was, we broke so many records for Americans in the top 5-6 leagues in Europe. And I feel that this season is going to be even better. I think we're going to go from strength to strength. It's not going to be perfect, but I do think it's going to continue. And that's exciting to see. How are you guys doing? Darian Cruz Music. Hope all is well soon. Thank you. Will Maurer loves the series, Pete. Anthony Booker, sorry to hear. Why are Tessman and Busio not on Venezia roster anymore? So Busio is injured. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. He got injured during the Olympics, remember? And Tessman, it looks like, confirming he's made that move to Lyon as of this week. So he was never going to be a part of Venezia's plans this season. So Martinez, hey Pete, we missed you. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I've still been posting videos as much as I can. James with the question of the weekend. Will we get... Oh, nope, that's the one. Here we go. Will we get Koleosho to commit for the U.S.? That's a big question. I think the two biggest dual nats that, Pochettino needs to be convincing is Koleosho and Diego Cochin. Those are the top two. So we will see. We will see. How much longer should Pepi stay and sit behind De Jong? So I'll say this. I think a lot depends on how much playing time he gets between now and the end of the year. If January comes and he's still getting 15-minute cameos here and there, and they're not really playing him at all, even, like for me, once they go 3-4 goals up, give him a shot. He's the future, right? So I think it just depends how much playing time he actually gets between now and the end of the year. But if it continues to be like last season, then I would push for a loan, at least for the end of the 6 months of the season, because, he's not better than Luuk de Jong, right? He's not. But at the same time, Luuk de Jong is 34. And, does he need to play like 90 minutes every single game? I don't think so, especially when Champions League comes and kicks off and they're going to have 2 games a week. I think they need to spread the load a little bit more evenly. What's crazy about Pepi is he still, when he does come on, he performs. He scores goals, right? Liam Davis says, and now we don't have an incompetent coach that kills our players' form during national team camp. Exactly. Look, I think that was a big issue last season especially, is it was tough to get excited. I mean, of course, you would get excited about, weekend performances of our guys. But then when they came into camp, you just know it wasn't, they would all play like shit in Berhalter's system and all of that. So it was hard. It was easy to get excited from a club perspective, but from a national team perspective, it was like, yeah, and then what? They're all going to come here and stink up the joint under Berhalter. So we'll see what they do under Pochettino. But yeah, it definitely makes it more exciting. Let's have a quick word from our sponsor before we dive in.
Fantasy Sports is back with a new and improved pick'em game across all sports that makes it easy to play fantasy sports with just a few clicks. Each sport allows you to build a parlay that includes between 2 and 5 predictions about the outcomes of player projections. As you would expect, the more picks you include, the greater the potential payout. Don't go crazy with it and play responsibly, but adding a few bucks here and there to a game gives it a little more excitement and stakes. Use my promo code 11yanks or click the link in the description to start playing, and Underdog will match whatever you put in your account up to $100. Enjoy!
Yes, indeed. Enjoy, guys. And to everybody who did sign up, thank you. You know, this sponsorship coming to an end soon, and whether or not they renew really does depend on whether or not how many signups we got using my code. So thank you to everybody who did sign up using my code, and I hope you're able to earn a little money here and there. Jeff Carey says he's watching Philly and Colorado. I'm actually watching Philly and Colorado too. I was trying to keep an eye on this Stefan guy, but hasn't looked great. Still looked quite shaky. Somebody's worried. Winelka's worried about Chris Richards getting relegated with Palace. I don't think that's going to happen. I think there are a lot worse teams with a chance of getting relegated. I think Everton. I think the promoted teams. I don't think Palace is necessarily in danger of getting relegated right now, right? James says, should we bring John Brooks back as a center back? Well, Brooks needs to find a club. Right now, he doesn't have a club. So the dude needs to find a club somewhere and start playing so we can evaluate him, right? But this is a great segue into the top 10 because Jaylin Neil, probably for the first time, makes the top 10 due to his performance against Atlanta United. Oh, it's good to have the domestic league back again for these young players. Jaylin Neil, probably the only real young center back in our pool who can play with his feet. And that is very obvious in these stats here. Played 90 minutes against Atlanta, got to help them to keep a clean sheet, and made 99 out of 103 passes. Now that is impressive. 100 passes for a center back in a game. It's even more impressive when you examine how many touches he has. 106 touches. What does that tell you? It tells you that he made most of those as one-touch passes. He also made 8 passes into the final third, had 2 clearances, and 1 headed clearance. So well done, Jaylin Neil, still 21 years old. You know, his very promising trajectory was sort of interrupted by injury, but now that he's back and playing regularly, I hope that he can kick on, maybe earn a move at the end of the season somewhere so that he can be ready for the World Cup in a year and a half, right? I think maybe a move to the Bundesliga could be in the cards for a guy like Jaylin Neil, but we shall see. All right. Brenden Vasquez of Monterrey played against Tijuana, played 74 minutes, scored 1 goal, had 2 out of 3 successful dribbles, 2 out of 8 ground duels won, so not great, but 1 out of 1 aerial duels won. It was actually a very nice finish. And just a reminder, guys, all of these goals and assists, the full clips will be available on Patreon tomorrow. So this, obviously, I can't play the clips here. I can try to sketch them out as best I can. This was a very nice finish. He took it in his stride. His first touch rounds the keeper, and the second touch finished quite nicely. So well done, Brenden. Even though he's not really in the mix for the pool right now, he's on the fringe. And sometimes an injury or two, and you can find yourself with another opportunity, right? Number 8 is Joseph Scally of Borussia Mönchengladbach. Played against Leverkusen, last season's champions, in the season opener. Played 90 minutes, had 1 hockey assist or pre-assist, second assist, whatever you want to call it. But overall, had a pretty solid performance against the former champions. 3 clearances, 5 recoveries, won 2 out of his 4 ground duels, and 0 out of his 2 aerial duels. For Joe Scally this season, I really think consistency is going to be key, because last season, although he's one of the few players that can come out of this summer with his head held high, last season he was quite inconsistent for Gladbach, which is what led a lot of us to doubt him going into Copa America, myself included. But just being consistently good doesn't need to be spectacular. He doesn't need to be Serginho Dest, and he shouldn't try to be. He should be Joe Scally, doing well at what he's good at, right? Defending well, being compact, being more helpful in the build-out, which, by the way, on the goal that they scored that he was involved in, that was very much a part of it. He was very much involved in the build-out. Number 7, the Ginger Ninja himself, Josh Sargent, played against Sheffield United, Austin Trusty Sheffield United, played 90 minutes, scored a goal, had 1 out of 3 successful dribbles, 2 out of 5 ground duels won, and 0 out of 5 aerial duels won for our boy Josh. This was the goal. And do you see the defender that's trailing him right now? This was actually a good through ball, and he ran in behind. That's Austin Trusty, who couldn't keep up with him. Not a good look for Austin. If Austin Trusty wants a call-up, he's going to have at least be really, really good in the championship, because you're not in the Premier League anymore, right? So you have to be like defender of the season contender in the championship if you want to call it. Otherwise, might not be so easy. And that was not a good look from Austin Trusty, not being able to keep pace with Josh Sargent. But for Josh Sargent, that's already 3 goal contributions in the opening 2 games, right? So well done to him. Brenden Aaronson decided, in what is seeming like a right move, to stay with Leeds United for the season in the championship and try to help them get promoted. And he's already scored 2 goals for them. The second one came against Sheffield Wednesday this week. Played 89 minutes, right? Scored 1 goal, had 1 out of 2 successful dribbles. Some of his other metrics, not great. 3 passes into the final third, 3 out of 11 ground duels won. For a guy that runs and presses a lot, 3 out of 11 ground duels is not great. And only won 1 out of his 4 aerial duels. So other than the goal, not the best performance from Brenden Aaronson. But in terms of getting Leeds fans back on his side after, the way they've treated him, and to some degree, deservedly so. Some of it has obviously gone over the top, but he was very disappointing. Considering what they paid for him, he was very disappointing for Leeds. And so coming back and then on top of that, leaving, and not helping them try to get promoted the first time probably didn't help his reputation. But coming back and certainly having these types of performances, even though the performance wasn't amazing, but certainly scoring goals will help. It will help get Leeds fans back on his side. This was the nice goal too. And again, this was, he was involved in this very deadly counterattack, and his teammate, who's lying on the ground in the box, you can see there, I don't know if he was fouled or tackled, and the ball fell to him, and he cut it on to his left to create some space for himself and finished quite smartly. Again, that'll be on Patreon tomorrow. Malik Tilman of PSV Eindhoven had a good performance against Almere City FC, played 90 minutes, scored 1 goal, created 2 chances, had 5 out of 6 successful dribbles, which was a match high, 3 out of 5 tackles won, and 10 out of 14 ground duels won, which was also a match high. So Malik seems to be picking up right where he left off last season, being heavily involved in PSV's attack. And I'll be honest, if he does 20-plus goal contributions again this season, some bigger clubs will certainly come and start sniffing, right? And I personally wouldn't want him to stay in the Eredivisie past this season if he has another excellent season, because I think he needs to keep pushing himself, right? It was, good to push himself to go from Rangers to PSV, and I think another season at PSV is fine. Let's see how he does against the better and bigger teams, and also in the Champions League, because that's always been sort of his weakness, right? But this was a nice finish. Ball was chipped in behind the back line, and he raced to get there first and was able to divert it as he was sliding on the ground into the back of the net. Goalkeeper probably could have done better on this one as well. But hey, a goal's a goal. Congrats to Malik. Ricardo Pepi, this game felt very much like what we saw for most of last season also, right? Where you see, 90 minutes, they ramp up the scoreline on these terrible teams in the Eredivisie, right? And 17, minutes to play, and he comes in and gets a goal. And it was a nice goal too. He didn't do much else apart from that, but coming in and getting a goal can't hurt his confidence. Let's see, if he gets any more minutes or chances than he did last season. This was the ball that was passed to him in a crowded box, and it was actually not that easy of a finish. He didn't just whack. He opened his body up and sort of redirected it into the far corner with his right foot. It was a very smart finish and good technique to pull it off. It was not by any means easy. So well done to him. I hope at least that gives him confidence. And, hopefully Peter Bosch will give him more opportunities than he did last season. We'll see. Number 3, Antonee Robinson of Fulham FC, played 90 minutes, played 90 minutes for them, got 1 assist, created 2 chances, 0 out of 1 successful dribbles, 2 out of 5 accurate crosses, 2 out of 3 accurate long balls, 5 out of 5 tackles won, which was a match high, and 5 out of 9 ground duels won. So A-Rob, look, he isn't the best on the ball. We all know this, right? But when it comes down to defensively, he's been really, really good. And this assist was a nice assist with his weak foot, no less. Ball was played to him, and he one-touched it into space for, I think it was Iwobi, to then go in and finish smartly. It wasn't like a cross assist or a cut-back assist or anything, but it was good, quick thinking to catch Leicester's back line sleeping. So well done to him. First assist of the season for Antonee Jedi Robinson. I have him at 10 goal contributions over the course. Last season, he got 9. So I put something similar. Are rumors about Manchester United? Personally, I don't think he's a Manchester United level player, although Manchester United aren't what they used to be either. So maybe, but I do think Fulham is kind of his level. And I think just continuing as he enters his prime, continuing to be a consistent quality left back for Fulham is probably the way to go. Although I will be intrigued if he goes to Man United, because Luke Shaw isn't exactly killing it either. You know what I mean? Number 2, the Christian GOAT. Christian Pulisic at AC Milan scored Milan's first real goal of the season. 1 goal, 4 chances created, which was a match high. But again, other stats not great. 0 out of 4 successful dribbles, 2 out of 13 accurate cross. I actually take some issue with that 0 out of 4 successful dribbles, because I watched him and he completed a lot of dribbles. So I'm not sure why this stat came through, which is a good reminder to don't just look at stats, watch the games. But it's not good. They lost that game to Parma, which is, newly promoted Parma. And after their draw last week, that's 1 point in 2 games for a team that is expected to fight for the title, right? And they even brought in a new coach, Pablo Fonseca, and it hasn't looked good. And by the way, did they really strengthen that squad? I know they brought in, Morata, but they did also lose Giroud. Did they really strengthen that squad? I'm not so sure they did. I'm really not. So I'll be honest, if they don't strengthen, I don't know if they're going to necessarily be a title contender, right? Hank Hill says Milan looks bad, but Jeff looks good. That being said, though, it was a good little finish. He actually had a really nice run and shot earlier. That was it fell to him in the air and he volleyed it and it was saved. But this was a good cutback, I think, from Theo Hernandez. And then it came to Rafael Leao, who laid it off for him. And it was a good little poacher's finish for Christian Pulisic. But what do we know about Christian Pulisic? He is streaky. So when he scores 1, watch the next 4 or 5 games, expect him to get at least 1 goal or assist in every one of those games. He's a streaky guy, confidence level player, but good for him to open his account for the season. So hopefully he can get started off strongly. Kubani Maker, Milan needs a real 10 or they have no chance for the league title. I've been saying this for a long time. Giovanni Reina. Now we would have a thing. Gio at the 10, put Pulisic back on the right. You can bench Chukwueze. And anyways, Timothy Weah played a game for Como, against Como. This was on Monday, so it counts for this week. He played against Como, played 45 minutes, and scored a golazo of a goal. Sadly, he was pulled off at halftime with a hamstring injury and will be out until the middle of September. The injuries are starting to stack up as we go into camp. Potentially Pochettino's first USMNT camp. Busio is injured, although he's not really USMNT level. But Kevin Paredes is injured. Tim Weah is injured. Is there anybody else that I'm missing? I think it's just Weah and Paredes. And Paredes is not necessarily a roster lock either. So we will see. But other than that, everyone seems healthy, right? And Nico Gonzalez was brought in. Yes. Oh, and Dest. Duh. Yeah, Dest is also injured. So well done, Timo Weah. This was sort of a loose ball. Similar situation to Brenden Aaronson, where the ball just sort of fell to him in the box and he pounced on it with his weak foot and it bounced off of the crossbar and down into the goal. It wasn't a clear goal, but it did cross the line, as the referee, goal line technology said. So well done to Timo Werner. Hopefully he can be back sooner rather than later, because we really don't need any more injuries going into potentially Pochettino's first camp. So that is the USMNT Top 10 for opening weekend. Somebody way back, I did see your comment. I don't remember who it was, but you asked about you asked a little bit about how I feel about players now, like praising Pochettino all of a sudden after they were backing Greg. I cannot find the comment right. Here we go. Tom. So Tom says, Pete, what do you think about interviews with USMNT players saying that hopefully the new coach will crack the whip? Tyler Adams was really the only one who hinted at him cracking the whip. He needs to be more ruthless, which is interesting because they were all praising Greg Berhalter out the ass for being nice to them. And he's nice to us. And he asks about my wife. And, Pulisic's like, well, run through a wall for Berhalter. And then Berhalter finally gets fired and then they're like, oh, but, it's good. Actually, I think we need somebody to crack the whip. How about you crack the whip on yourselves and be disciplined and accountable and stop shilling for some guy who doesn't deserve the job just because you like your spot and because he put you on the fucking leadership council? This season, players are going to be I'm going to, at least, and I think a lot of the fan bases too, going to hold our guys a lot more accountable for their performances, because we do have a good coach now. So if you don't perform, it's not Greg's fault. Greg ain't there anymore. It's on you, right? And hopefully Pochettino gets it right. Little bit of a blank slate for a lot of these players, but also it's accountability time. They're coming off a failure. Last time they were all together, they failed, and they failed miserably while saying things like, well, this is just a practice for the World Cup. Like that, going into Copa America, that narrative that they were all like, look, this is just 2026 is the goal. This is just a warm up. That sort of nonsense tells you everything about mentality. And Berhalter was the one preaching that mentality, and they swallowed it. Hook, line, and sinker. So I do think it's time for them to be more accountable. They're not young anymore, most of them, right? Especially the leadership council guys, Pulisic, Weston, Weah, Adams. These guys are not young anymore. So accountability time, for sure. Tom says, shitty leadership breeds shitty performances, and it starts at the top. UNTAC have said the same, and the straight red card. Yeah, definitely. This was disappointing, man. Mason Greenwood joining Jamaica, be up against you guys soon. Yeah, that's a game you bring Tyler Adams on for with a very specific mandate, if you know what I mean. This is what we do. And, for Steve McLaren, who, by the way, what a weird signing for Jamaica. Steve McLaren, former Manchester United, assistant coach, to come in and call this guy in when there's no debate or, even his club being like, oh, the controversy. No, there's no controversy. There's no controversy. There are actions, terrible actions, things he did. There's audio recordings of what he did. There's video evidence of things he did. Just because, his girlfriend didn't want to press charges does not mean that he's innocent, even though Lily Johannes' dad thinks he is. And there are people defending him. Those are when those people show you who they are, believe them, right? Mason Greenwood still has a career, mostly because his victim was scared to press charges or was still in love with it, whatever. There's lots of reasons. I don't want to speculate on them. But just because he didn't get punished by the law does not mean he is innocent. And it is perfectly okay to treat him like the criminal that he is. And I hope we do when it comes time for us to face Jamaica. All right. Let's see. So Fall says Pulisic wouldn't have been benched if he spoke up. Pulisic is bigger than Berhalter will ever be, just scared to create controversy. Yeah, exactly. Also, you can still play it safe and not like suck dick for your coach, right? Like there's a way where you can, oh, what do you think about Yeah, look, I mean, Berhalter's obviously has ideas about what he wants us to do, and maybe sometimes we struggle to execute. It's not my job to decide who's, going to be the new coach. But he was out here talking about Greg like he was his dad, like, oh, we love him. We will run through walls for him. Oh, the haters. What did he call us, fans? And if the haters don't like that, well, too bad. Yeah, too bad, Pulisic. You were part of the failure squad because you wanted this guy and advocated for him and fought for him. So, no, he doesn't get a pass. This business of course, players are going to say that. These guys are media trained. They know how to tread the middle line. It's very easy to tread the middle line, but they didn't. They advocated for him, defended for him, and even attacked people who didn't want him. So anything they say should be taken with a massive grain of salt because they lost all credibility after that, right? All right, Hank and Bobby Hill in the chat. Oh, boy, that's quite the duo there, huh? Well, guys, any other questions, any other thoughts? MVR says, let's be frank, our team has been coddled for a long time now. Yeah, I agree. Mentality needs to change. That is the number one thing that needs to change with our team is mentality, and we need to have a lot more accountability, right? Don't forget also our other sponsor. Well, I still use them at least. Believe, where the game starts. Bet online. How did Wiley look? Hank, I didn't watch Wiley today. I was in bed. Ledesma looked okay. He's sort of filling in at right back because they got rid of Teze. It'll be interesting to see how he does. He didn't look against a very poor Almere team. He was not spectacular, but I would say solid enough. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your Sunday. These will probably be earlier in the future at 2 p.m. instead of 3 p.m. Pacific time. And I certainly hope they will be, but we will see. As always, smash the like button before you go. And thanks to everybody who's been in the stream. The season started. It's exciting. Next week, we should have a roster. We should have a roster out probably Thursday or Friday, probably a Mikey Virus roster. So we'll see how that looks. And hopefully some updates on Mauricio Pochettino. All right, guys, have a great week. Have a great Sunday. Talk to you all soon. No, I'm not watching the Leagues Cup final, Anthony Booker, because I don't watch fake tournaments. All right, later.